everybody, and welcome to the debut episode of the Huddle Hub Podcast. My name is Metal Mike, and I'm joined here, as always, with the Candyman, the Pickmaster himself, Mr. Johnny H. John, the time is here, the debut episode of the Huddle Hub Podcast. Are you excited?
I'm excited. We finally have our own independent thing, and we are going to kill it. I rocked out the red Steve Young jersey for this occasion. Oh yeah, Niner red in full force today.
The Huddle Hub Podcast, dude, we've been waiting for a month for this to happen. A lot of work went in to creating this. First off, gotta send a shout out to Allison and Will over at Rivet City Radio for helping us out with our background here, because switching everything over to the Huddle Podcast, making sure the social links are up there. Also with the intro, helped us out with the intro and everything like that, editing everything that we needed to be done, because I'm a little illiterate when it comes to editing certain things, and they helped out with taking care of that. So thank you very much to the Will Gray and Al over at Rivet City Radio for taking care of that for us and helping us out with that. With that being said, though, down below you see our socials. On TikTok and X at the Huddle Hub Pod, and on YouTube at the Huddle Hub Podcast. The links are below. We also have the links in our bio for you to just click on, go to, follow, subscribe, and check out everything that we have posted over on the Huddle Hub Podcast, X, TikTok, and YouTube. And thank you to Scows. Scows in the chat. Thank you to Scows for helping us out get our X started. Because Scows helped out with getting our X started. So, Scows, thank you. And he helped me out the other day, John. When free agency started, I had a video set up ready to go, and Scows helped me drop that at 4 p.m. when free agency started to promote today's show. So, Scows, shout out to you over at Off the Top Media for dropping that video and helping us out get prepared here on the Huddle Hub Podcast. But make sure to head over to all the socials here. We are live on Twitch, very first episode of the Huddle Hub Podcast. We are also live on the Off the Top Media YouTube channel. For some of you viewers who seen us on Rivet City Red Zone, we are now the Huddle Hub Podcast. So, John, free agency started this week. Tampering period started at noontime on Monday, and we've seen a bunch of moves that were happening right away. And then at Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the start of free agency when everything became official. Now, today's show is going to be jam-packed of free agency stuff. So sit back, relax, get the popcorn ready, and let's talk some free agency. John.
Get your popcorn ready.
That's right. So the segments we have for you today, the first one that we're going to do is the top 10 impactful free agent signings in our opinion. So we have opinions of our own of the top 10 impactful signings that happened in free agency. If you have an opinion, say it in the chat. Our next one will be the top 5 free agents still available. So there are a bunch of free agents still available. A lot of top free agents is still available. And we are going to give you our opinion on which ones are still there. And then we are going to do our top 5 power rankings in free agency. For example, we're going to say, hey, these are the 5 teams that we think made an impact in free agency. Okay, those are our segments for today.
Curious to see how our lists differ. That's what I'm curious to see.
I'm kind of excited about it too, to see how our lists go. So, without further ado, John, just to let everybody know, we have one more announcement. Join us on Thursday, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Huddle Hub Podcast Twitch. We'll be live for NFL Draft Night 1, Round 1. Okay, so Night 1, Round 1, April 24th. Watch along right here on the Huddle Hub Podcast Twitch. So if you are not on the Twitch, please hit that follow button, because we will be live for Round 1, Night 1 of the NFL Draft. So, John, let's get into it. The free agent signings were hot and heavy this week, and I expect a lot more coming out of we also got a news segment too. We have a news segment. Let's do the news first, because We do have a news segment, so we're going to do the news first. I apologize. So, John, we have some news that coming out of the NFL. Okay, if I could get my notes together here. So last night, John, around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, there was a trade that happened. The Vikings and the 49ers. The Vikings ended up getting Jordan Mason, the running back from the 49ers, and the 2025 pick number 187. In return, the 49ers got the 2025 pick 160 and the 2026 sixth round draft pick from the Vikings. John, you are a Niners fan. A lot has been going on with the Niners this offseason and free agency. Maybe a lot more downs than ups for them. What are your thoughts on this trade that came through last night?
I'm trying to keep faith in John Lynch through this whole process, but it really doesn't surprise me because I expected them to let Jordan Mason walk because they drafted Isaac Guerendo in the 3rd round last year. So, and he stepped up when Mason went down. So they already have a suitable backup for Christian McCaffrey. So this really doesn't surprise me. I love this move for the Vikings. They re-sign Aaron Jones. They trade for Jordan Mason. They have solid depth now at the running back spot. So it was a great move for Minnesota.
Yeah, great move for Minnesota because they have oh my gosh.
Aaron Jones?
Aaron Jones. I was getting ready to say A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon went to the Eagles. They have Aaron Jones, and now to have Jordan Mason back him up, that was a great move for Minnesota. Great move. 49ers, they're stockpiling on picks. That's what they're doing. It's like they're building for the next 2 or 3 years in the draft.
That's exactly what they're doing. They had like 83 million in dead cap this year that they had to worry about. Cut ties with more good players than I would have liked them to. I'm not expecting a lot out of them this year, especially with the possibility that Ayuk is still on the trade block. So it's personally, and I said this, I believe I said this to you, and I said this to a coworker as well. If they're gonna do a complete rebuild, let's trade Purdy. Let's trade him to the Tennessee Titans. Let's get the 1st overall pick and let's draft Cam Ward. And if we're gonna do if we're gonna do a complete rebuild, let's go all the way with it.
Well, I mean, that's the other question too. Is there going to be a quarterback battle in camp this year because they went out, they got Mac Jones. Mac Jones is highly favored by Kyle Shanahan. He wanted him in the same draft that they got Brock Purdy in.
There's no contest. If you look at Mac Jones'
or not Brock Purdy,
body
Trey
of
Lance,
work compared to Brock Purdy's body of work, got him to a Super Bowl, got him to 2 conference championships. What's Mac Jones done his whole career? Absolutely nothing. There's no quarterback battle at all. That was just to replace Josh Dobbs for depth at the backup spot.
Well, again, Kyle Shanahan was very high on Mac Jones in the same draft that they got Trey Lance in. Okay, they moved up. They got Trey Lance opposed to getting Mac Jones. Kyle Shanahan was very vocal about the fact that he wanted Mac Jones. Okay, that's why the question does lie out there of, is there going to be a quarterback battle? I mean, there's plenty of teams out there that went out and got veteran quarterbacks to where you're questioning, is there going to be a quarterback? Look at Indianapolis. You got Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. There's going to be a quarterback battle there. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of Colts fans would probably say, but that's the thing, is a lot of Colts fans would probably say like, oh no, Anthony Richardson's the guy, yada, yada, yada. But they just brought in Daniel Jones, who was the number one. But as of right now, that's the thing.
You don't draft a quarterback in the 1st round to bench him 2 years later. You don't
draft a quarterback in the 1st round only to trade him 2 years later. But that has happened to many quarterbacks like a Kenny Pickett.
Oh, Kenny Pickett wasn't very good in Pittsburgh.
Let's be honest there. I'm just saying, you don't go out and draft a quarterback only 2 years later to trade them either, but it's been happening. We've been seeing it. Look at all the talk with Bryce Young out in Carolina, all the trade talk on him, and he was a 1st round pick.
He silenced that after he got benched. He came out a completely different player. He silenced that talk.
Well, I mean, this trade came in late last night, and the Vikings end up getting Jordan Mason and pick number 187 in the draft. The 49ers get pick 160 and a 2026 sixth-round pick for next year. Also, the Falcons, they ended up keeping Kirk Cousins on the roster past 4 p.m. yesterday. So now that allows them to pay the $10 million 2026 roster bonus to Kirk Cousins. And Kirk Cousins, it looks like he's still going to be the backup out in Atlanta as of right now, unless any trade offers come in within the next couple weeks or even before we hit the trade deadline during the season in week 9. Do you have any thoughts on this?
I could see somebody trading for him if they're a team that's in the race and maybe their quarterback is struggling or got hurt. But other than that, I think he's going to be the backup. I think that's Michael Penix's team.
I can agree with
you don't start a rookie when you're still competing.
Yeah.
And not keep him because they weren't out of the division race when they benched Kirk Cousins last year. So they made it clear 100% that Penix is their guy going forward.
No, I mean, they took it down to week 18 and it had to the Buccaneers had to win their game to win the division, which they did. And the Falcons ended up going into overtime in week 18 and found out, hey, it doesn't matter whether we win or lose. We're not the division champs. We're not making the playoffs. They couldn't even
beat the Panthers in overtime. They didn't deserve to win that. They should have stomped them, to be honest with you.
But again, like you just said, Bryce Young kind of silenced everybody.
He did.
With, he got benched, he came back, and he got hot. So, speaking of hot, it is very warm in this room. I need to at one point flip my fan.
See how he does going into this year, coming out of how he finished last year.
I mean, we'll have to see. There is a lot of talk that certain teams that they spend certain amount of money in free agency, the next year end up winning 3 more games than they did the year before. And the Panthers 2 years ago or last year in free agency spend a lot of money in free agency and they won 3 more games than they did the year before. So it's a pretty big statistic right there. So imagine if the Panthers go out and spend a lot more money this year in free agency than they already have, they get up to 8 wins. That's playoff bound, depending on how your division goes.
I don't think in that division that's playoff bound.
I mean, it was a rough
Buccaneers in there.
it was a rough division this year, John. Look how close it was. It was close. So the Buccaneers, Hassan Reddick mentioned that he is ready to move on from his bizarre stint in New York with the Jets. It was a bizarre stint. He ends up getting traded from the Eagles to the Jets. He ends up holding out all the way until basically midseason. And then he hardly played. He didn't play much with the Jets. He wasn't on the field that much. So do you have any thoughts on Hassan Reddick with the Jets?
I wouldn't call it a bizarre stint. He created that stint. He refused to play. He held out, and I think the Jets did the right thing. Listen, you don't want to be on our team? You want to hold out? Fine, you're going to play limited. I would have done the exact same thing. It wasn't a bizarre stint. It was a self-caused stint because he was greedy and he thought he was worth more than he actually was.
I mean, we talked a lot about this last year during the season that the Eagles, they weren't going to extend him for what he wanted. He wanted 3 years. He wanted $40 million. And it's not what you're going to get. You're not going to get that at your age. I mean, a lot of these teams are looking at 29 years old and saying, you know what, you're about to hit the 30 mark. We don't know how you're going to perform once we get past 30. You see a lot of these players in their 30s. The injuries are starting to pile up.
Yeah, they slow down because of age.
Exactly. So, and you look at his statistics in the 2 years he spent in Philadelphia. Yeah, he had 10 sacks. He had a bunch of tackles and everything like that. But then his final year was just like nothing. And that's why Philly said, hey, we're not extending you. You slowed down. You lost a step, and that's that. So, Aaron Rodgers is in the news a lot as of late, John. I mean, a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers, where he's going to go, and we are down to 4 teams: the Giants, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Browns. Now, Russell Wilson, he visited the Browns on Thursday. He was supposed to visit the Giants yet on Friday, okay? But apparently Russell Wilson, as far as we heard, did not make it to New York. He spent a lot of time out in Cleveland. Now, the question is Russell Wilson waiting to see what Aaron Rodgers does? Or do you think Russ is going to make his way out to New York?
I think he likes what he heard in Cleveland. I mean, let's be honest here. 2 years ago, Cleveland made it to the playoffs with Joe Flacco. Okay.
Yeah.
Who's to, because of that defense? Now, who's to say they can't do the same thing? Russell Wilson is better than Joe Flacco, hands down. So who's to say get Russell Wilson in there, draft a wide receiver, bam, maybe they make the wild card again.
Yeah.
You know, at this point, Aaron Rodgers didn't play bad for the Jets. If you look at his numbers last year, they were actually decent.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I feel like he's gonna be a Steeler. That I feel like Pittsburgh's really high on him, and it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I came across a social media post that was posted earlier this week from a Steelers fan. I'm just going to say this. The person is a Steelers fan, and they mentioned about Aaron Rodgers coming to the Steelers and saying, oh, he was crap in New York, yada, yada, yada. And I was literally ready to go into the comments and say crap in New York. He had a freak accident in 2023, and then last year he nearly threw for 2,900 yards. He had 28 touchdowns and 11 interceptions. He had a 90.5 passing completion rating. Tell me that's crap in New York? No, he had a very, very good season last year, but the team wasn't around him. The team was not around him.
He had
the
one
running back
and no
damn near disappeared. The running back damn near disappeared after week 3. Yeah, Breece Hall.
On a milk carton right now. His face is on a milk carton.
Yeah, so... And 20, that's good now. Damn, the bar has really 2,900 yards isn't bad. It's not bad when you don't have the receivers to catch the ball. Yeah, he has, he had Conklin and he had Wilson.
No. You're off there.
He had 38. He had 3,800.
3,897. He just missed
38,000. He had 3,800. I'm sorry.
I just pulled it up because that didn't sound right to me.
Yeah. But still, let's say 3,800, okay? Even 3,800 is amazing. 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 90.5. Yes, Scouts, people make mistakes, okay? I made a mistake.
I know that mistakes is a huge difference. Made. That's why it didn't sound right to me. I was like, wait a minute. I know that's not right.
Let me ask you this. Did I have my statistic right on the 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 90.5 completion rating?
Yeah, you did have that.
Okay, so I had the yards wrong. I made a mistake.
Made
a mistake. People make mistakes. Anyways, I mean, 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, 90.5. I mean, that's a great year. That's a pretty good year. That's not a bad year. So to sit there and be like, oh, Aaron Rodgers was crap. Really?
He didn't have a
team. Come on. Aaron Rodgers was crap. My God. I know you're not Scouts. I appreciate you being here.
He's not wrong, though. I mean, that 1,000.
I know he's not wrong. I know he's not wrong. It is a big difference. It is a big difference. And I appreciate you guys stat checking me. I really do. Thank you guys for the help. But yeah, John, that's pretty much in the news. I mean, we got to see where Rodgers ends up. We got to see where Russ ends up. I mean, Russell Wilson going to the Browns. I mean, he would make a significant difference in that offense for them, especially after the year that he had out in Pittsburgh and the final year he had out in Denver. I mean, Russell Wilson's not done yet, and I don't think Aaron Rodgers is either.
No, I think he's going to be a Steeler. I mean, let's be honest. Other than the Vikings, because they have Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones, there's no other team that needs a quarterback that's enticing. I mean, the Giants, they need a lot of help. O-line, they only have one decent receiver. They need a running back. I mean, that's not appealing at all. I wouldn't see why any of those two would want to go to the Giants.
I mean, the Giants did go out and make some moves in free agency. Last year, and I said it this last year. I mean, I gave them, I believe, a B minus or a
I
C
thought
plus
their
last year in
O-line
grade in
move
free agency.
would be better than they actually were, but it
Yeah.
didn't translate on the field.
Yeah, I mean, I gave the Giants a pretty good grade in free agency last year because I didn't think they did bad. They upgraded their offensive line. Yeah, it didn't really show this year, but I think bringing in more pieces on the offensive line and bringing in weapons and not only relying on a guy like Malik Neighbors to make plays for you, I think the Giants can get to where they need to be in the next year or two. Maybe not this year, but maybe next year. And in free agency, they didn't do too bad this year so far in week one. They did
I'm
it.
thinking 3 years because it's a long way to go to catch Philly and Washington. And I'm going to even say Dallas because I feel Dallas only did bad last year because they lost their starting quarterback. I mean, if you can't move the ball, you can't move the ball. Cooper Rush is no Dak Prescott.
Yeah. And speaking of grades for free agency, we will be giving our free agency grades about 2 weeks before the draft. We will be doing our free agency grades. So come join us for that. John, one last thing, just to kind of run down the schedule for the rest of the offseason for the NFL. Like I said, the 24th to the 26th is the 2025 NFL draft. On April 7th, teams with new head coaches can start season workouts and off-season workouts. And on April 21st, teams with returning head coaches can start their off-season workouts. So that is the schedule for the rest of the NFL offseason. And then we get into OTAs, mini camps, and then we get into the preseason. So things are going to start moving hot and heavy here and very, very fast.
And the UFL in a couple weeks.
Yes. Yeah, we got the UFL starting in a couple weeks.
Forget about that. While the NFL dies down, the UFL gets rowdy. So let's go. Spring football is almost here.
And Scouts, we weren't talking trash on the Giants. We were talking pretty positive about them. Like I said, I mean, they did really good in free agency last year. They're not doing too bad this year. It's all about the building process. And that's the thing is, John, you're going through it right now with the 49ers. The 49ers are having a rough go in free agency doing the moves that they're making as a fan.
Trust me, no 49er fan expected them to let everybody walk except for a couple people.
The Eagles,
so, like, caught me off guard. Like, I was like, the sky is falling when this happening. What's going on?
and that's the thing is we all feel the pain of a rebuild as fans. You're feeling it right now, John. Scouts, you're feeling it right now in the rebuild. I felt it during Scouts. 2 words: dream team. Dream team. Okay. Enough said. That's pain.
That will never be forgotten. The old
by all means,
quote. That will never be forgotten.
But by all means, talking positive about the Giants here. So they're not doing bad, and I could see them in the next 2 or 3 years getting to where they need to be. They are, and you never know. I mean, and Aaron Rodgers again is not. He didn't do bad last year. I think him getting in, whether he goes to the Steelers, whether he goes to the Giants, whether he goes to the Vikings, because there's a lot of talk about him going to the Vikings. I think he's going to go in there and make noise.
You know, for a guy who at one point wanted to be separated from Brett Favre, he is sure following the same path that Brett Favre did. Especially if he goes to the Vikings.
Well,
like,
speaking of that, I watched the Aaron Rodgers documentary on Netflix last week. Number one, very good documentary. Very, very good. Opened my eyes a little bit on what we weren't seeing. And he was very open about everything. You know, like missing OTAs last year because he took a trip to, Egypt because he wanted to check out the pyramids. He explained why he did that. But then they show all the media and them talking about him. And it's like, let the man go. He's been in this league for 20 years. If he wants to take a vacation to Egypt and he's been showing up to everything beforehand, let him take a week to go to Egypt and clear his mind.
OTAs are optional anyway.
The pictures that they're showing right now with the headphones on the beach and everything like that, the way this man lives his life, he lives a mind-clearing life. And it seems to have done good for him in his personals, which, hey, by all means, with somebody that deals with mental health, I don't blame him. I don't blame him from the clear his mind the way he does. I don't blame him. And with the work that he's in, I don't blame him. Let him do his thing. And this ain't even his decision right now. He's waiting on teams to make decisions. It's not him. It's them. So it's the Giants, it's the Vikings, it's the Steelers, it's the Browns. One of those teams got to make the decision on signing him. So it's not on Aaron Rodgers right now. It's on the teams. That's what it is. If he goes to the Vikings, it's to a T. Yeah, it is. It's the same path. It is because, he was a Packer, he was a Jet, now he'd be a Viking. And him and Brett Favre, they cleared that up too in the documentary. They don't have problems. They don't have the problems that the media tried to put out there years ago. They don't. They're friends. So go check out that documentary. I highly recommend the documentary. It's a 3-part series. It's a really good watch. I enjoyed it. I did. I highly recommend it. Your eyes will be opened a little different to Aaron Rodgers once you see that documentary. I promise you. So, but John, let's get into our next segment of the day, the top 10 impactful free agent signings in the NFL that happened this week. Now, this is based on our own personal preference, John. This isn't based on anybody, any media outlets, nothing like that. This is our personal preference on why we think these were the most impactful for teams. So, how we're going to do this, John, is I'll run down my list, then you're going to run down your list, and then we'll talk about them. Okay? That's what we're going to do. So, with that being said, John, and this is in no particular order either. This is just a top 10
I ranked
list.
Mine from 1 to 10.
And that's okay. That's fine. If you want to do that, it didn't have to be like that, but if that's how you did it, that's fine. Number 10 on my list is A.J. Dillon, running back for the Eagles. I feel like this was a very impactful signing because now all the weight doesn't have to be particularly put on Saquon Barkley. You get down to a 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. A.J. Dillon is a big body guy. Now, yes, A.J. Dillon missed all of last year with an injury, which does not look good. But A.J. Dillon, I still think, is a reliable running back out that can go out there on a 3rd down or a 4th down, even in the goal line, and punch the ball in and get you what you need to convert. That's why I think this was a very impactful signing for the Eagles. My number 9 is Rico Dowdle to the Panthers. Okay, the Panthers needed to upgrade their running game. Miles Sanders is not a uphill, downhill runner. He is a side-to-side guy. Rico Dowdle in Dallas showed that he is a downhill, uphill runner. And I think this was a very, very impactful signing for the Panthers. He signed a 1-year, $6.25 million deal. And I think the Panthers are going to be impressed with him. I think they are going to extend him in the offseason in 2026. Number 8 is Deebo Samuels to the Commanders. We talked about this a lot. The Commanders, to get over that hump, they needed more than just Terry McLaurin or Zach Ertz in the middle. They needed another key receiver, and Deebo Samuels going to the Commanders is a key receiver. Deebo, he had a rough year last year. We all know that, but I think a change of scenery for him might help him. I don't think he was frustrated in San Francisco, but a change of scenery is sometimes good for everybody. So I think Deebo in Washington was very impactful. My number 7 was Josh Sweat, the edge rusher from the Eagles, heading to the Cardinals. 4 years, $76.4 million. Huge pickup for the Cardinals. A few years ago, they had J.J. Watt. He was very impactful in that defensive side of the ball. Okay, and I think that's what the Cardinals needed help with, is on that defensive line from last year. And Josh Sweat will end up doing that job for them. Very impactful for the Cardinals. Number 6, Joe Thuney, the offensive guard from the Chiefs. He ends up with the Bears. He got traded from the Chiefs to the Bears. Very impactful for the Bears because they needed to work on that offensive line. Joe Thuney, he's going to help do the job that needs to get done. Number 5, Geno Smith traded from the Seahawks to the Raiders. We talked about this all offseason, John, with the Raiders. They needed a quarterback. Geno Smith out in Seattle. He kept Seattle alive in the playoff hunt, got them to the playoffs, kept them in the race for the NFC West. Geno Smith with Pete Carroll. Geno Smith was Pete Carroll's guy once Russ was gone. I think this is a great fit and very impactful for the Raiders. Number 4, Charvarius Ward, the cornerback from the 49ers to the Colts. And he signed an extension, 3 years, $60 million. The Colts defense, their secondary, had a lot of issues last year. Charvarius Ward being in that defensive backfield for the Colts is going to be impactful and be very helpful for that defense. Number 3, DK Metcalf, wide receiver, sent to the Steelers, and he signed a 4-year, $132 million deal. Again, George Pickens can't be the only receiver in Pittsburgh. Now the question lies is who's going to be the quarterback. Okay. Number 2, DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens, and he signed a 1-year, $5 million deal. This is going to be a lot of help for the Ravens. They have their running back. They had a wide receiver in Flowers, and now they have DeAndre Hopkins, and I still think DeAndre Hopkins can be impactful. He showed it even in the Super Bowl. He got a catch in the Super Bowl. He had a pretty good game in that game. He had a pretty good game, and I think he's going to make an impact out in Baltimore. And number 1 is Joey Bosa, the edge rusher, going to the Bills. 1-year, $12.6 million deal. I mean, the Bills defense, did they need a little bit of help on their defensive line? Yes. Joey Bosa, I believe, even in week 1, is going to make a significant impact for that Bills defensive line. So those are my top 10 impactful signings in free agency. We'll talk about them in a moment. But John, your list.
Well, my list is a lot different than yours. I'm going to start with number 10. I have the Steelers trading for DK Metcalf. Like you said, George Pickens and Freiermuth cannot do it by themselves. And the reason I have him as number 10 is we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. Is it going to be a rookie? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? So whoever the quarterback is, they have weapons. So that's why I have him as number 10. Number 6. I'm sorry, number 9. Number 6. Number 9, the Seahawks signing Cooper Kupp. If he can stay healthy, he is going to be a very good replacement for DK Metcalf. He's going to be a very good complimentary receiver to Jackson Smith-Njigba. They got a new quarterback in Sam Darnold. They already have the running backs in place in Walker and I want to say it's Champagne, but I know it's not. My Cabernet. There we go. And now they have 2 solid wide receivers. Sam Darnold could continue his success that he had in Minnesota because of this Cooper Kupp signing. Number 8, the Bengals re-signed defensive tackle BJ Hill. And their D-line took a hit this offseason. Sam Hubbard retired. They lost some guys. It was very important for them to bring back the anchor of their defensive line, and they did that by bringing back BJ Hill. And number 7, the Bears trade for offensive guard Joe Thuney. The Bears' their offensive line was their weakest part of their team this year or last year. Caleb Williams got sacked 68 times, and they did a very good job with securing their offensive line this year in free agency. And the Thuney trade was the first piece of that. Number 6, I have the Commanders trading for Deebo Samuels. They already had a good offense. They had Brian Thompson Jr. Yeah, it is Brian Robinson Jr. At running back. Scary Terry at wide receiver. Now they trade for Deebo Samuels. They bring back Zach Ertz. And I don't think the trade for Deebo is going to hurt McLaurin's touches at all, because I think they're going to use him like the Niners use Samuel. They're going to use him in trick plays. They're going to use him in sweeps. So I think they're both going to be fine. The biggest winner of this is got to be Jalen Daniels. Number 5 is also the Commanders trading for Laramie Tunsil. They now have a franchise left tackle to protect their franchise quarterback. That was a great move for them. Number 4, the Eagles re-signing Zach Bond. He is the leader of the defense, and they needed to get him back after his breakout year last year, and they did. I was very happy to see them re-sign him. Number 3, the Broncos signing linebacker Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers. The Broncos had the 7th best defense last year, and it just got better. They added more pieces to that defense, and I really think they're building that defense to try to shut down the Chiefs, and I think they really took a step forward with that this offseason. Number 2, and this would have been my number 1 if something else didn't happen. The Chargers signing running back Najee Harris. I love this move. Jim Harbaugh tried to recruit him heavily when he was in Michigan. He went to a bunch of his high school games, and Harbaugh's offense is a power run offense. Najee Harris will be perfect for that offense. I really think he's going to have a big year. He's had 1,000 yards every single year of his career, and that includes splitting carries with Jalen Warren for the past 2 years. So Harris, I think, is going to be a major, major uplift to that offense. And my number 1 free agent impact signing is the Buccaneers re-signing Chris Goodwin, their wide receiver. He wanted to stay in Tampa Bay. He took a team-friendly deal, a hometown contract, left $20 million on the table to come back to Tampa Bay. And I think a team without Godwin would look completely different than a team with Godwin. And I think that's the missing piece. They did everything they could to keep this team together so they can not only contend for the South, but for the Super Bowl. And I think that this sign is going to make all the difference in the world for them.
So let's talk about our ones that we have the same. We have the same Deebo Samuels, Joe Thuney, and DK Metcalf. Let's talk about the ones that we have the same up first. DK Metcalf to the Steelers. Again, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth were the key receivers in Pittsburgh for Russ Wilson. Now the key question is who's the quarterback? Is it Aaron Rodgers? You know, are they going to go out and get somebody else? I mean, right now, when you look at it, when you look at it, their biggest, they just brought back an ex-quarterback that they had.
Mason Rudolph.
Mason Rudolph. Okay.
He was a beloved backup by the fans.
He's their number 1 right now. Right now, as it sits today, he's their number 1. Yeah. Why? Because Justin Fields went to the Jets.
Yeah.
Russ Wilson is out there, possibly going to the Browns because he didn't leave Cleveland yet.
Back anyone.
No, they didn't. Mason Rudolph is the guy right now.
Yeah.
Can you rely if they decide, hey, we're not going to draft a quarterback. Hey, we're not going to pick up anybody else. Are you going to rely on Mason Rudolph? I think you go out and if you went out and got DK Metcalf, you have George Pickens, you have Pat Freiermuth, you have the running game. If you fail to not bring in a quarterback that is going to take care of business the way it needs to be taken care of, because Mason Rudolph, is he a good backup, reliable backup? Yes. Is he a starter? No.
He knows the system very well. He was there for a while.
A lot of quarterbacks are in places for a while. Do they still look good? No. It's all about the reps. And Mason Rudolph, does he have a fair amount of reps? Yeah, he does.
For a backup, yeah.
For a backup, exactly. I want to look at his reps and see what he has done in his career.
I fully expect them to draft Aaron Rodgers. I really do.
So since 2019, since being drafted,
sign Aaron Rodgers.
Since being drafted in 2019, his career stats: 63.7 completion percentage, 4,615 yards, 28 touchdowns, 20 interceptions with an 84.7 rating. That's Mason Rudolph. That's the Steelers' starting quarterback at the moment.
Until they sign Aaron Rodgers. If you don't sign Aaron Rodgers, there's no one left. you better draft Jackson Dart. You better because I would say Jackson Dart might be or Dylan Gabriel. I forgot about
Yeah.
him. You better draft one of those two because you're not gonna get Ward, and I don't know why you would want Sanders.
I mean, they would have to. You look at their draft positioning right now, and you question: do they need to move up to get a quarterback because of how different this draft is this year? This is a very tight end. This is a very tight end heavy draft. Okay, very tight end favored draft.
I think it's more defense favored than.
I was just about to say it's a very defensively favored draft as well.
Yeah.
Okay, very limited on the quarterbacks. That question lies is, do you move up? Because the Giants, who also need a quarterback, because right now the only quarterback on their roster is Tommy DeVito. If they don't get Aaron Rodgers, then they're going to need to draft a quarterback. Or do they rely on Tommy DeVito for the year until next year?
I think they're going to get a quarterback, especially if Russ goes to Cleveland. I really don't see the Titans drafting a quarterback. I really don't. I think I think the Giants will get a quarterback. It's just a matter if it's going to be Ward or it's going to be Sanders.
I mean, the favored right now for the Titans to draft is the defensive lineman out of Penn State.
Yeah, I think he's the best player in this draft. I would draft Abdul Carter number 1, absolutely. Ride Will Levis this year, and then draft your quarterback next year when it's a better class.
And the Titans are looking good in free agency as well. They're spending some money. So, I mean, again, we'll do our rankings our grades as far as draft in a couple weeks. But like Scal said in the chat, a lot of Giants fans out there want Arch Manning in next year's draft.
I don't know. I think Cam Ward is going to be a stud. I would take him 100% if I could get him, man.
But if they do not take Cam Ward, then the question lies is, do you ride the year with Tommy DeVito? I wouldn't. I would go out and get myself a veteran quarterback that, and that's the thing, Scouts. Ward can fall to 3 because the Titans are not expected to take a quarterback.
The Titans take Abdul Carter.
Yeah, Abdul Carter would be their guy.
If the Browns sign Russell Wilson, they don't need a quarterback. So then that leaves the Giants with their picks between Ward and Sanders. Hey, what's going on, Shrek?
Shrek with a bang! She is an awesome, awesome Twitch/TikTok streamer. Go check out her streams on TikTok and Twitch. Shrek with a bang. Do not miss it. It is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. She does gaming streams and amazing. Appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for stopping in and checking out our debut episode today. We are talking about the top 10 impactful signings in free agency right now. We are on our second segment of the day. So we got a couple more segments to go. But DK back on track. DK Metcalf going to the Steelers. It's huge, but the only question lies is who's going to be their quarterback. Joe Thuney to the Bears. This was huge. Huge pickup for the Bears. They had a rough offensive line last year, John. And this isn't the only offensive line move they made.
Oh, I know. They revamped it completely.
They did. They tore down their offensive line and said, hey, guess what? We mean business now.
Well, they needed to. Anytime your quarterback gets sacked 68 times, I mean, that reminded me of David Carr's rookie year with the Texans.
Oh, my God, that was terrible.
It wasn't all O-line's fault. Caleb Williams did hold on to the ball longer than he should have sometimes.
Yeah.
Didn't throw it away sometimes. But that's all part of learning and being a rookie. And not only that, where was DeAndre Swift?
Yeah.
O-line block for him at all. So no running game puts even more pressure on the quarterback, makes him think he has to do more than he has to because the running game's not there. The Bears did exactly what they needed to do.
Yeah, and a lot of people talked to me about DeAndre Swift. They were saying like, oh, he's going to do better out in Chicago, probably do better than he did in Philly. Okay, 253 carries, 959 yards, 6 touchdowns this year. Okay, it took him till week 17 to break 1,000 yards in Philly. In the 1 year he was in Philly.
It was a slight step back. It wasn't too big of a drop.
But the huge argument is he's going to be a 1,213-yard rusher out in Chicago. Didn't even break 1,000 yards.
Maybe if he gets now, maybe with this O-line, he has a shot to do it now. But
Probably, I can agree with that. I think he will, especially with this revamped offensive line. Deebo Samuel's going to the Commanders. Now we know Deebo had a rough year these past, you can even say 2 years, because the year they made it to the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, he was out for a couple weeks. He had that nagging shoulder injury. He had that hairline fracture. But Deebo, I think going to the Commanders is good for him on the personal level of it's a change of scenery. And sometimes change of scenery is good for some of these players. And I think Washington is going to be a good change of scenery for Deebo Samuels. Your thoughts?
I think he's going to be used like I said when I did this, I think he's going to be used the exact same way he was in San Francisco.
Agreed.
He's going to be used on trick plays.
Yep.
And that's why I don't think it's going to hurt Terry McLaurin's number at all. I think Scary Terry's still going to be the number one receiver in Washington. So it was a good move for them. At any time you can upgrade your number two, because let's be honest, they did not have a solid number two receiver last year. They had Terry McLaurin and a bunch of young players. Not saying Noah Brown did bad. They brought him back. So I think I like him as a number three, but he's not a number two. Hands down. He's just not a number two. This is a big improvement for the Washington offense. And like I said, the winner, I think the biggest winner of the off season so far is Jalen Daniels. Gets his franchise left tackle, gets a new receiver to throw the ball to and hand the ball off to. Hey, what's up, Riggs?
What's up, Riggs? Thanks for stopping in.
Us.
We did talk about our thoughts on DK Metcalf with the Steelers. Basically said that, it's a great move for the Steelers, but the question lies is who's going to be the quarterback, and can you rely on Mason Rudolph as the starter? That's going to be the question. Who is going to be the quarterback? Because now they have George Pickens. Now they have DK Metcalf. They have Pat Freiermuth. They have a pretty good offensive line. It's all about who they're going to put the ball in, who they're going to put the ball in the hands of. What quarterback are they going to go out and get? Are they going to have Rodgers? Are they going to draft a quarterback? Are they going to rely on Mason Rudolph? That was our thoughts on DK Metcalf to the Steelers. So I appreciate you stopping in, though. Thank you so much.
At number 10, just because I'm pretty sure Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback. But as of right now, we don't know that for sure. I had that as the number 10 move in the offseason, just because who's the quarterback, who's going to be throwing to the ball. But it was a very good move by Pittsburgh's part.
Now, let's run down it really quick by position as far as our differentials, because we had 7 differentials as far as this list. Our three same was Deebo, Joe Thuney, DK Metcalf. Now let's run it down as far as in order of position. Okay, so let's start with the quarterbacks. You had no quarterbacks on your list. I had Geno Smith for the Raiders. Again, I think this was a very impactful move for the Raiders. They needed a quarterback. They had Gardner Minshew. They had Aiden O'Connell. Did not look good. You go to the year before, they had Jimmy Garoppolo. Didn't look good there. Now you bring in a new head coach in Pete Carroll, who is a Super Bowl winning head coach, made it to the Super Bowl 2 times with the Seahawks, won 1, should have won 2, but we won't go there. Geno Smith ended up being his guy after Russ was gone. Do you think that they're going to be better, or do you think they're going to be just on a standstill level where like they were in Seattle?
I think they'll be better, but they'll still be a standstill, if that makes sense. I could see them
50-50.
8-9 wins. Why? Because you got a quarterback now. You got your veteran who knows Pete Carroll's system, right?
Yes.
You have Brock Bowers. Okay, great. He looks like he's going to be the next big thing at tight end.
Yeah.
But who else? You have Jacoby Myers at receiver, but that's it. You still haven't filled in the wide receiver spot. Now, there is a guy in our next segment where we talk about the top 5 unsigned free agents that are still available that I have to fill that spot. Okay. But as of right now, you only have Jacoby Mayer. That's it. It's like give Smith some help at the receiver spot. That's why I didn't add him to my list.
And it's so crazy how they had Devontae Adams on their roster up until last week, and now Devontae's in LA, to where Devontae Adams literally made a difference when you sit here and say they have a star-studded roster. They're just not putting it on the field.
He left the Jet. He didn't leave a Raider.
That's right. He did leave a Jet. I forgot he was on the Jets.
Because he wanted to play with his buddy Aaron.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you take DeAndre Hopkins in Las Vegas and you look at that roster, you took him off that roster, okay? If you put him on that roster, back on that roster, you could sit here and say star-studded roster.
And it's nothing against Jacoby Mayer. I love that kid. He is a great slot receiver. I just don't know if he's number one. He has been reliable.
Yeah.
Every year he's been a Raider. He's been reliable. He looked good as a Patriot, but I'm not convinced he's a number one receiver.
And you look at the comparison of the Raiders and the Commanders. Okay, again, Terry McLaurin, Jacoby Myers, Zach Ertz, Brock Bowers, running back position. It's in comparison, the Commanders just made it work better. Why? Because of the quarterback position.
Yeah.
So now, is Geno Smith going to be that difference maker? That's the question. Next position is the running back position. Now, you had one running back on your list in Najee Harris. I had one running back on my list in actually two running backs, A.J. Dillon and Rico Dowdles. Okay, so A.J. Dillon, really quick. This is a pretty quick talk. Do you think he's gonna be a difference maker in Philadelphia for the backfield? Because now, do you think Philly's going to rely on Saquon as much as they did this year? Because Kenneth Gainwell was the backup. Kenneth didn't do too bad as the backup. Now they bring in the big body of A.J. Dillon. A.J. Dillon coming off the year of injury, didn't play all year for the Packers. Do you think he's going to be a difference maker and help out Saquon as much as people are expecting him to?
No, I don't. I think it's going to be the Saquon Barkley show. You don't have a guy just miss breaking the NFL rushing record for a season just to cut back his carries for somebody else the next year. I think he'll just be in there to give Saquon a breather here and there. That's why he didn't make my list.
I just think the difference that he's going to make is when you get to those 3rd and 3s, 4 and 1s, get down to the goal line. He's a big body. He's going to be able to push through. That's where I think he's going to help.
They don't need him on the goal line. They got the tush push for that.
Yeah, but we're still in question of whether that play is going to be banned or not. So, and I'm sure once we get that news, we will talk about it.
Oh, definitely.
I also had, we'll run through mine and we'll go down to yours with Najee Harris. Rico Dowdle out in Dallas took over that offense as the running back, didn't do too bad. Now he's heading out to Carolina. Carolina and Dallas basically made a trade without making a trade. Okay, because both Miles Sanders and Rico Dowdle hit free agency, and then Dowdle goes to the Panthers, and Sanders goes to the Cowboys. So they could have just maybe worked out a trade, maybe threw in a draft pick in there, but instead they let both guys walk. Both guys hit free agency, and they picked up each other's respective running backs. Rico Dowdle in Dallas didn't do too bad. And I think this is an upgrade for the Panthers running game because, again, Miles Sanders is not an uphill, downhill runner. He's a side-to-side guy, okay? And he's proven that, of me talking about this, number one, on the show many of times, but number two, when you watch him do it, it's like, okay, Mike, we see what you're talking about. And you said that to me. I see what you're talking about. Rico Dowdle's an uphill, downhill runner. I think this is a huge improvement for the Panthers running game. Your thoughts?
It is as far as how many running backs they have, but I still think Chuba Hubbard gets the majority of the carries. If anything, it creates a competition between Jonathan Brooks. I think people are forgetting about him, rookie last year, and Rico Dowdle to be the complimentary back. But I still think it's Hubbard's offense.
Okay. Najee Harris going to the Chargers. They let J.K. Dobbins, he walked anyways. He was gone out of there. So J.K.
and Gus Edwards.
Gus Edwards gone. Now they bring in Najee Harris. Now, Najee Harris during the offseason said, I won't take any less than $14 million in signing. And I think he took less. I think he only took like $8 or $9 million in a signing to go to the Chargers. So do you think this was more of a not a popularity, but do you think Najee Harris looked at the roster and said, you know what, I'll take the money you give me because I know I'm going to a better roster looking team right now? Things don't look too much of a mess in Los Angeles opposed to what things look like in Pittsburgh right now?
No, I think he realized he was asking too much and he had to cut down.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like I said, Jim Harbaugh heavily recruited him when he was in high school. He likes him a lot. He likes the power run. He went to a bunch of Najee's high school games. He even announced the homecoming queen at one of those games. He did. It's a true story. Some lucky lady got announced as a homecoming queen by Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh. I mean, he pulled out all the spots to try to get Najee Harris to go to Michigan. He went to Alabama, of course, and had a lot of success there. Harbaugh really likes him. He loves the power run.
Yeah. And
I think he is the perfect running back for Harbaugh's offense. I think he's going to be that missing piece. Not saying DK Bobbins did bad last year. He revived his career. But I think Harris is an upgrade. And I think the Chargers offense took a big step forward with Harbaugh finally getting the guy he wanted.
I mean, we make our predictions every year as far as how we think teams are going to do. And we're going to break down our predictions by piece. So once free agency ends, before we hit the draft, we'll make our prediction on how we think teams are going to do, what their record might be. And then we'll do it after the draft. And then we'll do it in preseason. And then we'll do it before. So we're going to do basically a 4 stages of prediction as far as how teams are going to do this year. We'll do that. Is this an upgrade for the Chargers? I think so as well. I think it's an upgrade for their running game. Najee Harris is a big body guy as well. He's got speed. He's got the size. The question is going to lie. And as we always say it looks good on paper, but it's all about putting it on the field. This is a new team, a new scenery, a lot of guys that he has to get used to. And that's not only his quarterback. He needs to get used to the offensive line. Why? Because the offensive line is blocking for him. So he's got a lot of relationships to build with. And
honestly, though, I don't see why it would be that big of a difference. The Chargers made the playoffs. They're already there. So, I mean, if anything, it's going to help them more.
They made the playoffs and lost to a team that they did not expect to lose to.
Oh, I mean, when your quarterback throws 4 interceptions one game, that's going to happen.
Against the defense that did really downgraded this year.
I'm sorry. I love Justin Herbert. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks in the league. But you throw 3 interceptions all season, and then in the playoff in one game you throw 4.
Yeah.
You know, that's like one of the worst games you could have at all times. All-time worst games right there.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Jared Goff threw 5 interceptions and still won a game. So
that's good depth around him, though.
Let's go to the wide receiver position. We basically talked about all the wide receivers on this list but one, and that is Chris Godwin, who was on your list. He re-signed with the Buccaneers, staying in Tampa Bay. You look at this Tampa Bay team, and this team screams Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with Godwin back. That's why I put him as the number 1 impactful signing.
Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Sterling Shepard. I mean, this team screams. Baker Mayfield screams Super Bowl contenders.
Bucky Irving at running.
Irving, yes.
Running back.
I mean, the question lies is put it on the field. I mean, this team can be a scary team. This is one of the teams that our Super Bowl champion Eagles lost to in the regular season.
And they didn't lose anybody during free agency that's going to be that big of an impact.
No, I mean,
that's why this Godwin re-signing is huge for them.
Yeah. I mean, they did go out and sign some people. They did, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not, I mean, you look at this and the Buccaneers literally scream Super Bowl contender. I mean, they went out and got Hassan Reddick on the defensive side of the ball, which I think is still going to be a big help. I think Hassan Reddick can be a big help. It can be. He can
He
be.
keeps his ego in check.
Yeah. So, and he's in Tampa. I mean, I think he's happy in Tampa because I don't think he would have signed this early if he wasn't happy.
No,
Okay,
he
because
wanted
he got
to go to a contender. He didn't want to go
and
to a
this,
team that's why he was unhappy with the Jets.
yeah,
He wanted to, if he was going to be on a bad team, he wanted to get paid, but he was asking too much money to get paid.
yeah. So, I mean, this is a very good signing for the Buccaneers. Great signing. And again, this screams Super Bowl contender. And I would not be surprised if the Buccaneers end up being a team that takes over their division this year. I mean, the Falcons, again, you look at their team, and they're another team on paper that can sit there and say division winners, a playoff contender, a home game in the playoffs, whatever. Super Bowl contenders, no, not yet. Especially, I mean, if Kirk Cousins was the starter and he was 100% healthy, Minnesota Kirk Cousins before he got injured, maybe. But now you're kind of backtracking a little bit with having a rookie quarterback, a guy who has not had a lot of reps in the NFL. So that's why I think the Buccaneers taking over the NFC South, maybe even just this year, Super Bowl contenders, I see it. I'm
not convinced that the Falcons are even contenders in that division after their little meltdown last season when they were supposed to be contenders.
Yeah. Let's go into the no tight ends. We don't have a tight end on the list. But we have offensive linemen.
Well,
now
the biggest one was, I believe, Ingram signing with the Broncos. That was the biggest tight end signing.
Yeah, but he didn't make any of our lists.
Yep. Because there were bigger impacts.
Now, offensive linemen. Let's run down the offensive linemen. On my list, I have Joe Thuney. On your list, you have Laramie Tunsil and Joe Thuney. Okay, so let's talk Joe Thuney for a second, going to the Bears. Again, a huge upgrade for the Bears. They went out, they restructured their offensive line, and now they mean business as far as protecting their franchise quarterback in Caleb Williams. I think their biggest question is going to be the defensive side of the ball at this point. The offensive side of the ball looking good now, the way they built this offensive line. Now it's going to be the defense side of the ball and what they do there. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the offensive line. So how much more of an impact do you think this offensive line is going to be? And do you think they protect Caleb Williams and prevent the sack numbers from happening this season opposed to last?
I think they do. I mean, anytime your quarterback gets sacked 68 times, it should be fairly easy to lower that number. I mean, 68 is a big number. So I think it's going to have a big impact on the running game, which is going to, like I said, going to have a big impact on the passing game. Yeah. Williams won't have to think I have to do everything by myself now. He won't have to make irrational decisions because he feels like he has to do everything by himself. The game will slow down when some of that pressure gets off of his back.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this offensive line is going to prevent him from being sacked as many times as he did last year. I do. It just looks, again, it looks good on paper, but it's all about what they're going to put on the field. And these are very seasoned offensive linemen that were able to protect their core. I mean, Joe Thuney coming from the Chiefs. That's enough said.
Yeah.
I mean, he was part of the line that protected Patrick Mahomes for so many years. So many years. And some people are saying, well, what about in the Super Bowl? Okay, Super Bowl is one game. One game. We're talking a career length worth of time. So, you can't compare one game to seasons worth of time.
Look at those past Super Bowls where it didn't happen. Yeah. It's just one game, like you said. I mean...
Yeah. So, and Laramie Tunsil heading to the Commanders. I mean, Laramie Tunsil and Houston, they had a lot of issues. They did. A lot of in-house issues. Laramie Tunsil getting out of Houston to head over to Washington to play for the Commanders. I mean, this is just a great move for the Commanders to boost up that offense. And again, as I said for the Lions, I felt like they were missing a piece to get over the hump that they were getting over. Could this be, I mean, the offensive line, it didn't look too bad for Washington. It didn't. But like I said, they had a lot of guys who were on one-year deals that they were going to have to either re-sign these guys or they were going to have to find new players to bring in. This is a huge upgrade for their offensive line. Laremy Tunsil coming in, huge upgrade. Your thoughts?
What's the most important player to a right-handed quarterback? The left tackle.
Yes.
Protect that blind spot.
Side. Yep.
He's one of the best left tackles in the game. And to piggyback off your missing piece, I think wide receiver 2 and Debo and Laremy Tunsil, left tackle, are the missing pieces to that offense.
Did the Commanders, with the moves they made, make themselves a little more worryful for teams? I think so. For certain teams. I
completely agree. That whole division, I think, needs to watch out for them now.
Well, I mean, when you look at the NFC East right now, it's the Eagles or the Commanders. It is. I mean, Dallas went out and made some moves. Dude, the Dallas made some moves. The Giants made some moves, but I don't think they were very impactful moves. When it comes to the NFC East, it's either the Commanders or the Eagles.
Everybody is looking past Dallas. But remember, Dallas didn't have their starting quarterback for half the season. You're not going to win a lot with Cooper Rush as your quarterback. Dak Prescott is miles better than him.
Yeah, but Dak's got to stay on the field.
I think people are overlooking Dallas, and it's going to be a good 3-team race this year. Or not so.
Yeah, but the thing is you win a division championship every year. What does that guarantee you? A home playoff game. That's it. That's all it guarantees you. Unless you have the best record in your conference and you earn home field advantage to the playoffs, all the division title does is earn you a home playoff game. The Eagles won the East. They didn't get home field advantage, but the playoffs turned into home field advantage for them. Why? Because they played at home throughout the whole playoffs. Because the Lions got eliminated.
Yeah, the Lions choked.
So that's why when we talked about in the past about does home field advantage matter, I said it. Home field advantage doesn't matter to an extent, but realistically, when you look at it in hindsight, it doesn't.
It doesn't. 100%.
And we did the statistics and everything about the home teams winning and all that stuff. I get it. But earning home field advantage through the playoffs, does it help? Yes, because you're in your stadium. You have your crowd, all that stuff. But then go out and win. And the Commanders came in and completely dominated the Lions. That crowd didn't mean nothing to the Commanders. They came in and said, guess what? We're here.
That's because they took the crowd out of the game.
They sure did.
That's how you deal with the home field advantage if you're the away team. You hit them hard, you hit them fast, and you keep the stadium silent.
We got about 50 minutes left on the show. 50 minutes, John. We got 2 more segments to get through here. So just to let everybody know to head over to all our social medias for the Huddle Hub Podcast over on TikTok and X at the Huddle Hub Pod and on YouTube at the Huddle Hub Podcast. You can catch clips from the shows over on all 3 social media sites. And join us on Thursday, April 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for round 1 of the NFL Draft right here on the Huddle Hub Podcast Twitch. Make sure you're hitting follow and subscribe on all the socials. Please do so now if you do not mind. Let's get back into this, John. The defensive side of the ball. Okay. We're just going to run down this list in order because we're going to gather it apart. We got 2 more segments to do, and we're spending a lot of time on these impactful free agent signings, which to reach his own. That's why they're impactful. They're meaningful to talk about. That's why it's impactful. So, number 1, we'll run down the list in order here. Joey Bosa, the edge rusher, heading to the Bills. I mean, the Bills' defense was a top 10 defense last year. Joey Bosa helps with that defense even more. So I think he's going to make an impact even in week 1. Your thoughts on Bosa heading to the Bills?
See, he didn't make my list because if you look at his body of work the last 2 years, he's made out of glass. He can't stay on the field. That's why I'm like, I think he's at the point of his career now where he needs to be rotated in. I don't think he can be an every down starter anymore.
Well, I mean, we'll definitely have to see what he does out in Buffalo. I mean, he's excited about this. He's excited to go out to Buffalo. I mean, the 49ers, they
I
were
would be
close to making
too.
a deal. The 49ers were close to making a deal with him, but the Bills ended up jumping in and offering a little
At
more.
the
And Bills
last
jumped at
minute,
it.
they swooped in and offered a little bit more.
Yep. We did miss a wide receiver on the list. We can talk about him real quick. DeAndre Hopkins to the Ravens. I mean, it's an addition. It's all about him going in and making an impact. That's it. It's a second wide receiver for Lamar Jackson to throw to. The thing with this is Lamar Jackson is a running quarterback, and even though they had a running back come in and was supposed to take over most carries, Lamar still ran the ball. Do you have any thoughts on DeAndre coming in?
See, I didn't include him on my list because they already have a solid offense. I don't think he's gonna make that big. He's gonna he's gonna improve the offense, but with Jackson running, with Henry running, you still have Edwards and Likely at tight end. You still have Flowers. It's like he'll get his touches, but I can't see him being a top 10 free agent signing just because of all the weapons he's going to have to compete with for touches.
The other one was Cooper Kupp to the Seahawks. I mean, the Seahawks right now, I mean, you look at it, they have a quarterback in Sam Darnold. They brought in Cooper Kupp, but the problem is going to lie is that offensive line. They do not have a good offensive line. So do you think this is a good situation for Cooper Kupp?
I do, actually, because Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be off the charts now as the number one. Cooper Kupp's there to help take the pressure off. Despite their offensive line, Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker still had great years.
Yeah.
Last year, and they still had a good season. So I think he's in a situation that's not as good as Minnesota, but it's still not a bad situation to be in it. Two capable running backs to hand the ball off to, two solid receivers to throw the ball to now. I could see him taking a step backwards, but not being like the Jets' Sam Darnold.
Yeah. Back to the defensive side of the ball, Charvarius Ward heading to the Colts on a 3-year, $60 million deal. That Colts defensive backfield, they had a lot of issues last season. I think Charvarius Ward is going to be a huge help for them. He's a young guy.
Yeah.
Young guy, but yet could still be a leader. And he is definitely going to be a leader for that Colts defensive backfield. Do you think he's going to make an impact?
I think so too. I completely agree that defensive backfield needs a lot of help, and they signed a good young stud to help him if he can stay healthy.
Josh Sweat heading to the Cardinals on a 4-year, $76.4 million deal. Edge rusher from the Eagles heading to the Cardinals. I mean, Josh Sweat made a huge impact in Philadelphia. Now he's taken his talent out to Arizona and playing for the Cardinals. I mean, when you think Josh Sweat, you think, okay, it's almost like they're replacing J.J. Watt, but a couple years too late.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's going to make a difference on defense. I don't know how much more wins that's going to get them because I haven't been a fan of Kyler Murray since he got drafted. And I don't know. It's definitely going to help with the pass rush. I just don't know if it's that big of an impact move that it's going to get them a couple extra wins.
Well, I mean, Josh Sweat is bringing from his 2024 season 41 tackles, 14 assisted, and 8 sacks. So, and that's from his 2024. But in his career, he has 237 tackles, 89 assisted, and he has 43 sacks since 2018.
But the thing is, he had other linemen he was playing next to that the defense had to worry about.
What's up, Jake?
I don't think he has that in Arizona. So they're going to be solemnly focusing on him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing is I think some of these offensive lines could end up double teaming Josh. It could happen. Yeah. So we'll have to see what what happens there. Dre Greenlaw heading to the Broncos from San Francisco. I mean, the Broncos, they really went out and upgraded some positions, and this is definitely an upgrade for them. So your thoughts on the Dre Greenlaw to Denver?
Well, as long as he doesn't get hurt walking onto the field, Denver's going to be
Oh,
fine.
my God.
Hey, man, how do you get hurt in one of the biggest games in your life walking onto the field? I mean, I'll never let him live that down. That was a huge game-changing moment right there. He didn't even get hit.
It was.
But
it was.
I think it's great. They are trying to their defense was already good, and it just got better. They are doing everything in their power to compete with that Chiefs offense, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos going out and making these defensive moves to compete with the Chiefs. And that's the thing. You go back to the Super Bowl and the Eagles defense completely dominated the Chiefs. They did.
Yeah. I felt
But
bad
again,
for
that's
Patrick
just
Mahomes. He was running for his life.
But again, it's just one game.
Exactly.
You know, you can't base everything off of one game. And Patrick Mahomes, by all means, did not have the greatest season. He had a rough season this year. But the Chiefs and the Chiefs right now, when you look at it, they're dealing with a lot of stuff off the field with Xavier Worthy recently getting arrested, you know, and we don't know what's coming from the Rashid Rice situation. We've never heard anything about that. So that's still in limbo, I guess. You know, all the off the field stuff. Could it be a distraction? And that's why the Chiefs weren't playing up to the standard that we expected them to play at this year. But, where these charges were dropped. I didn't hear about that. I didn't hear about. So, I mean, the thing is does it make sense that where these charges were dropped? I mean, when you listen to the story, I mean, everybody has their own opinion. Everybody will have their own opinion on it. I mean, but when you hear the story, it's like, you know, we won't get too deep into that. But, you know, to reach its own, I mean, where these charges dropped, so I guess they don't have to worry about that. But you look at it, it's all the off-the-field stuff that they have to deal with. You know, with that situation, with the Rashid Rice situation, it's, you know, you worry about that stuff and it could affect what's going on the field. So, BJ Hill and the Bengals. I mean, the Bengals, their defense, it seemed like a week or two ago, seemed like it was falling apart a little bit. You know, they have guys retiring, guys that don't want to resign, guys that want to be traded. I mean, do you see a downfall happening in Cincinnati?
I actually don't, just because the way they started and the way they finished were completely different. That defense woke up in the second half, and that's why I said this is very important that they bring BJ Hill back. He's going to anchor the defensive line. So if they lost him after losing Sam Hubbard, it's like, oh my goodness, the sky is falling in Cincinnati on defense. That was one re-signing that they needed to have to help secure that D-line.
Yeah. Last one, Zach Bond re-signing with the Eagles. Huge pickup for the Eagles. I mean, he was up for Defensive Player of the Year. Super impactful.
Yeah.
You know, here's the thing is the Eagles, for the most part, their team, they had some changes. You know, Darius Slay's out. Now he's in Pittsburgh. You know, CJ Gardner-Johnson, he's out. A lot of fans worry about this stuff, but when you look at it, Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, I mean, the defensive backfield in Philly, even with losing Darius Slay and CJ Gardner-Johnson, I think they're okay. And now Zach Bond resigning, everything's fine. Josh Sweat leaving, you still look at the defensive line they got. They're fine. This team, for the most part, is still put together. They're fine. But Zach Bond, this is huge for the Eagles on resigning him, keeping him locked up. You got to think of it. Zach Bond going from the Saints practice squad to now having a long-term deal in Philadelphia is huge. Your thoughts?
Yeah, he earned that long-term deal, man. He was the leader of that defense. That's why I have him on that list. I wanted the Eagles to re-sign him because he deserved it. The way he played, the way he took leadership of that defense, he deserved it, man. And I feel like that would have been the biggest loss they would have had if they lost him. So I was very happy for Philly. That's why he made the list.
Yeah, definitely. So that's it for the top 10 impactful free agent signings. Again, this is all our opinion based.
Yeah.
Everybody else is going to have their own opinion on who was impactful and what signings were impactful and everything. This is our opinion. This is who we think was impactful in free agent signings.
Yep.
So if you guys have a list, please head over to our social medias that we have on the bottom there and leave a comment in videos on who you think was the top 10 most impactful signings in free agency. But let's get into the top 5 free agents that are still available out there, John, because there's still some free agents that are out there that are available that could make an impact for teams. But just as we did with the top 10 impactful, we'll run down our list and then we'll talk about them really quick. So do you want to go first with your list?
Sure.
Yeah, I went first last time. You go first this time.
I actually have mine ranked in order from 1 to 5.
Okay.
I'm going to start with number 5. My number 5 best free agent still available. I have quarterback Russell Wilson. I mean, he can still play. He showed it in Denver. He showed it in Pittsburgh. And I actually have where I think they're going to end up. And I think Wilson's going to end up a Brown. I really do. There's a reason why he hasn't gone to New York yet. I think he likes what Cleveland is selling him.
Okay.
Number 4, wide receiver Tyler Lockett. And I have this actually piggybacks off of something I said earlier. Lockett's on my list because sure, Stephon Diggs is still available. Amari Cooper's still available.
Yep.
But I think Tyler Lockett, he was always so reliable for Seattle.
Yeah.
That's what I really think. He's better than those two. He's reliable. He always put up the numbers. He never complained. He never let his ego get in the way. He was a good teammate. And I think he's either going to land as a Charger because they need a solid number 2, or he's going to reunite with Pete Carroll with the Raiders. I actually think that's where he's going to end up in the end.
Okay.
And be the number 1 guy for the Raiders.
Okay.
Number 3, cornerback Rasul Douglas. Great cornerback. I think he's going to end up I think he's going to go to a contender. I think he's either going to go to the Ravens or the Chiefs to help their backfield. Number 2, another cornerback, Asante Samuel Jr. And I don't know if this is going to happen because they're in sell now mode, but I have him going to San Francisco because they lost their starters in the secondary. So you lost Ward, replace them with Samuel Jr. And my number 1 free agent still available, offensive tackle Cam Robinson from the Vikings. I feel like the Patriots are going to nab him to help secure that O-line for Drake May. And they have the money to do it.
Okay. All right, we'll definitely talk about your list in a moment. My top 5 at number 5, Stephon Diggs, wide receiver. I know he didn't have a huge impact out in Houston, but I think there's a team out there to where he can make a huge impact. Now, as far as where I think these guys can land, do I have a landing spot for them? No, I just have them as my top 5 still available. Okay. Number 4, center David Andrews from the Patriots. David Andrews was a huge impact for the Patriots offensive line. Kind of surprising that they let him go. It is, especially with having to protect Drake, like you said. Yep. So, I mean, I still think he's going to be impactful on an offensive line. Number 3, Aaron Rodgers. Again, 3,800 yards, 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions with a 95 completion rate. I mean, the guy, he can still make an impact.
He can still play. He's just like Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
They can still play.
I'm with you. Number 2, J.K. Dobbins, the running back from, I think he can find an offense to really make some noise in. There's offenses out there that don't have running backs, and he would be a good fill-in for said teams that don't have them. You know, maybe, I don't know. I mean, Dallas, I think, may need a running back. The Giants. There's teams out there that need running backs.
Jacksonville.
Yeah. So, and number one, Zadarius Smith, the linebacker who went from, he went from the Browns to the Lions, and now he's a free agent. I'm surprised this guy is still on this list. Zadarius Smith is a beast, and wherever he ends up, he is going to make a huge, huge impact to wherever he lands. I think so.
Okay.
So, but let's talk about our list real quick. If you had to pick one player from your list, John, who would it be that you would most want to talk about? We'll pick one player. We'll pick one player from each of our lists to talk about, and then we'll move on because we still have to do our power rankings.
All right. Well, let's talk about Asante Samuel Jr. for my list.
Sounds good.
Like I said, I have him going to San Francisco just because they sold everyone. It's a fire sale. So they could probably get him for fairly cheap. I still think he has something left in his tank, even though he was hurt.
Yeah.
And I think at this point, anybody could help the Niners secondary. I think he's the best corner available. And like I said, they should be able to get him cheap.
I mean, he did have a rough year in 2024. He only played in 4 games. He had 13 tackles, 11 solo, 2 assisted. But you look at his career, I mean, 50 games played since 2021, 176 tackles, 148 solo, 28 assisted. He has 6 interceptions and 45 total yards on the interceptions. It's pretty much he intercepted the ball and got tackled right away. Yeah. He's still a very impactful player that can go out and help a defense that needs a cornerback. He can even go into a powerhouse team and be an addition to maybe a Philadelphia, maybe a Detroit, a team that is a powerhouse that he can be in addition to. The thing is do teams have the money to do so? And you look at the salary
too.
You look at the salary. Yeah, I mean, you look at the salary cap right now. You're saying San Francisco. San Francisco right now has $30 million in cap space available. Is that enough to bring in an Asante Samuel Jr.? Yes.
Yeah, after the year he had last year with his injury, I believe so.
I mean, here's how you can break it down. You have $30 million in cap space. They could sit there and say, okay, we're going to sign you for 2 years, $30 million. You're probably thinking, oh, that's all their cap space. That's it. No, that is broken down. 15 a year. And then any incentives that are thrown in, $2-3 million signing bonus, anything like that, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Yes, it all adds up. But then when you look at it, the cap space in 2026 is going up to 275.
Yeah, it goes up every year. Every year teams get more money to spend. So
yeah. So
thanks for stopping.
All right, Shrek, thank you for stopping by. Appreciate it. Appreciate you stopping in. Thank you. But yeah, I mean, it's all about teams. The cap space goes up every year. It's going up to 275 next year. Teams will be able to afford it. John, 186 one-year deals went out in free agency this year. Okay, and that's just in week 1. 186 to date for one-year deals. Okay. And a lot of people are probably thinking, why are these guys only getting 1-year deals like a Joey Bosa? Why did he only get a 1-year deal? Why? Because the cap space goes up next year and teams can go out and say, okay, time's up. Our cap space went up. This is what we can offer you now. 3 years, 60 million, yada, yada, yada. They're just waiting for that cap space to go up.
Prove yourself deals too, because like I said about Bosa, the last 2 years, he's been riddled with injuries. So he's got to prove he's not made of glass.
Yeah. So Asante Samuel's going to either a powerhouse team or going to somewhere like a San Francisco that can definitely use the help right now with all the moves that they made. I could see it.
Yep.
I could see it. The guy I want to pick is Zadarius Smith.
Okay.
Zadarius Smith is the guy that I want to pick off of my list. I think when you look at my list, I think that he is the most I want to say noticeable on the list because he's a very impactful defensive player. Okay. His career stats since 2015, 333 combined tackles, 113 assisted, 69 sacks. Okay. That's since 2015. That's 9 years. 69 sacks in 9 years, John. Let's do the math. Okay. Let's do 69 divided by 9. That's 7.5 sacks a year.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Not bad for a linebacker who plays edge rusher sometimes.
Yeah.
So I am very surprised the Lions didn't sit there and say, you know what? Maybe we should re-sign this guy because he may make an impact he can make an impact for us. And the Lions have $49 million open in cap space. So they have the money. Why would you not bring him in when you had trouble on defense towards the back end of your year? You lost Aiden Hutchinson. You brought him in to fill that void. And when you look at it, he kind of filled that void. Did he do as much as Aiden Hutchinson probably would have done? Probably not. But he did what he needed to do. And if they were to bring in and keep Zadarius Smith, Aiden Hutchinson coming back from his injury, that's a defensive line I'd be scared of. So I'm just saying.
I agree. He had 9 sacks last year.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
He's reliable. He can get to the quarterback. So, I mean, it's crazy that he's still available. And at this point, somebody's going to get him for cheap, too.
They are. They are. And I would not be surprised if he is another addition to that 1-year deal worth said $1 million.
I think the biggest thing that's going to hurt him is his age. This will be his 10th year in, so now he's starting to head towards the back end of his career. I think that's why he's still there when they can get younger guys.
Yeah, but a lot of the younger guys are locked up in deals. I mean, there's some young guys that are out there on the list yet, but a lot of them are locked up in deals.
That's true.
They are. So, I mean, these guys that are old, again, a lot of teams are going to start getting ready for April 24th. They are. They're going to get ready for April 24th. But those guys that you go out and draft aren't always guarantees. From late round 4 and beyond, those are either practice squad, second team, or guys that get cut after week 2 of preseason. Round 1 through 3 is your guys that you know are going to be there.
Yeah.
So it's all about what teams are going to do through round 1 through 3.
Yeah.
And right now, when you look at the next, let's even say 2 years in the draft, the team with the most picks in the draft in the next 2 years is the Eagles. They have 20 picks in the next 2 years. 10 picks in the next 2 years in the first 2 rounds. That's insane. They stocked up on draft picks while making the moves they did to create the team that they did, and they raised the Lombardi this year, and they are a favorite to do it again this year.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Eagles fan. I'm saying that because it's true facts. Go check it yourself, guys. Seriously. It's true facts. They have the most picks in the draft. It's all about what you do there. And right now, you're in week 2 of free agency. Going into week 2 of free agency, and there are a bunch of players out there yet that need contracts, that need homes. Zadarius Smith, I think, is one of the top defensive guys to where I'm surprised no team jumped on getting him. No team.
I completely agree.
And wherever he ends up.
A mentor for a younger guy.
Exactly. Get
him a mentor for that rookie that you're gonna draft.
Exactly.
Or the young guy that you have on your team that might be 2 or 3 years in.
But can you imagine if Detroit would go out and spend the money and then they have Zadarius Smith on one side and Aiden Hutchinson on the other?
Yeah, that'd be crazy.
Scary. That is scary. John, I got a question for you. I got to pull this in, man. I got a question for you.
Don't you just love football? God. What a fun sport.
Don't you
I
just
do.
love football? I love
do.
football.
I love it. I love it.
I found a place to use it today. I did. I'm going to find a place to use that every week. I will. But I found a
George
place
Kittle's
to do
the
it.
man. You got to throw him in there every week. My
I
favorite
found
Niner.
I found an exciting moment that we just got so embedded in with Zadarius Smith. There you go. See, look at that. You got somebody talking about you. You deserve it. And you'll deserve whatever contract you get. You do. So, but that's it for our top 5 free agents that we had picked and the players that we think will make the huge impact if they get signed. John, we have a top 5 team power ranking from free agency.
Yes.
Okay. So this is basically our opinion on what teams we think are on this list and teams that we think made the most impact as far as week 1 of free agency. Will we have a top 5 power ranking next week? Yes, because there is a week 2 of free agency, which starts tomorrow. Because does free agency stop? No. Can things happen today? Yes. But normally on a Sunday, you really don't see things happening, and it's a holiday today, John. It's St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
I just realized this. It's St. Patrick's Day.
I know. Bethlehem had their Parade of Shamrocks yesterday.
Oh my gosh. I just realized this. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Our debut episode on St. Patrick's Day. Look at that, on a holiday. But we got our top 5 team power rankings.
Green.
Yeah, you know what?
And you have green to wear.
I do. I
don't have green to wear, so I wore red.
I have Bulbasaur in the background. He's green, and so is Turtwig. So they're on screen. They're green. We're good. I have Bulbasaur on my arm. He's green. I'm wearing green. I wear green all the time. So you look at that. But let's get into our top 5 power rankings for teams that we think made the most impact in free agency. John, this is how we're going to do this. We're going to I'll name a team, you name a team. I name a team, you name a team. We'll do this a little differently, okay? So the first team on my list that I think made an impact.
We're starting with number 1.
Yeah, you can go 1 through 5. You can go 5 through 1. It don't matter. Again, this is no particular order. It's just the top 5 teams on your power rankings.
Oh,
top 5 teams you think made an impact.
In order.
That's fine. So we're going to start with number 5. Okay. So my first team on the list is the Commanders. I think the Commanders made a huge impact in free agency with what they did, going out, getting Deebo Samuels, re-signing Zach Ertz, re-signing some of the guys on the defense that helped them win a lot of games last year. And I think the Commanders, in hindsight, got a little better this week. So Commanders are the number 5 team on my list. Who's yours?
Number 5 for me is the Carolina Panthers. I feel like they boosted their defense and they resigned a lot of their players, and that created good depth for them. So hopefully they can continue moving forward.
What's up, Raven? Thank you for joining us for the Huddle Hub podcast debut episode today. Appreciate you stopping in and checking out the show. Thank you so much, Raven. Thank you so much for stopping in. Appreciate it. We are doing our top 5 teams in power rankings for free agency from week 1 of free agency. John picked the Panthers for his number 5 team. I have the Commanders. So this is our number 4 team. John, the number 4 team on my list is the Bills. Going out and getting Joey Bosa to help out with that defense, and the Bills going out and making other moves. Definitely, I think the Bills made a huge impact in week 1 in free agency.
My number 4 team is the Denver Broncos. I feel like the improvements they made on defense is going to bring them steps closer to catching the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, the Broncos definitely did make an impact this week. They did. I mean, they made a lot of moves, and they did it in pairs at times too. There was a couple moves they made where they did it in pairs, which is crazy when you look at it. So the Broncos are definitely a good team to have on the list. My number 3 team is the Texans. The Texans, they had a little bit of a rough defensive stint last year. I think they went out and made some really good moves on defense for this year. So the Texans are my number 3 team on the power rankings.
My number 3 team are the Bears, the Chicago Bears. They greatly improved their weakest area, which was their O-line. So that should by theory, improve the running game and take a lot of pressure off of Caleb Williams, like we said earlier. So the Bears are my number 3.
My number 2 team is, and this is going to surprise a lot of people, but it's only week 1. Okay. So relax. It's only week 1, but when you look at what they did in free agency so far, they haven't done too bad. I think they upgraded themselves a little bit, and that is the Tennessee Titans.
Wow. I mean,
I
they had
think
a
the
lot of
Titans,
money to spend.
they did, and they made some moves. They spent some of the money,
Yeah,
and
they did.
that's why I put the Titans on my list. I think they did some
Okay.
pretty decent things. Yeah. Who's your 2?
Number 2 is the Washington Commanders. They re-signed a lot of their players, kept their team together, and they also helped their stud quarterback by bringing in Laramie Tinzel and Devo Samuels.
All right, John. Number 1 team on our list. You ready for this one? Buckle in, because you thought you were surprised by the Titans. My number 1 team is the New England Patriots.
Okay.
Bunch of money in cap space. I'm talking over $100 million in cap space, and they went out and spent the money, but they did not waste it. They went out and got players that are going to help them improve. That's on paper. Okay. They still got to put it on the field, but the Patriots are my number 1 team in the power rankings this week.
My number 1 team. And are you ready for this?
Yeah. Yeah.
The New England Patriots.
Yes.
Like you said, they had the most cap space and they improved their defense a lot with it. And they were able to sign a lot of other guys to the positions, which creates a lot of depth for them. And depth is crucial in rebuilding your team. So, like you said, they had the most amount of cap and they did not waste it. That's crazy. We both had the Patriots at
As
number
our number
1.
1 team. Yeah. Well, it
That's
was very
crazy.
noticeable when you look at
Yeah.
their free agent signings and you look and see that they had over $120 million in cap space. And then
Yeah.
you look at it today and they have they still have $79 million in cap space.
They didn't
Okay.
overpay anybody.
No. They were they spent their money smart.
I agree.
Smart. And they
I
still have
completely agree.
still have room to go out and make big moves, and they will still have the money to make even more after making said big moves.
Yep.
So the Patriots, I mean, taking steps forward. Now they got to put it on the field.
Yeah.
That's that. So, but to run down the list for the top 5 power rankings, John at number 5 had the Panthers, at number 4 had the Broncos, at number 3 had the Bears, number 2 the Commanders, number 1 the Patriots. For me, I had the Commanders at 5, the Bills at 4, the Texans at 3, the Titans at 2, the Patriots at 1. We will do our power rankings next week for our top 5 teams in free agency for week number 2, which kicks off tomorrow because they don't make moves on Sundays. They really don't. I mean, it happens, but it's rare. It's rare that you see any news that come out on a Sunday.
For rest.
Well, I mean, during the off season, you don't see too many moves that are made, on a Sunday. But when you get in season, things happen.
Yeah.
Things happen.
That's completely different because that's when everything goes down. Like the games are being played, and
yeah. I mean, you go back to the Raiders game, the Raiders, 2 years ago, or even last year, you look at it, they fired their head coach mid-season. So, to reach its own.
Yeah.
So, but John, that's all we have. I'm looking and I don't see any news coming across. Again, it's Sunday. Things aren't really happening,
Yeah.
no breaking news, no nothing, so we're an hour and 45 minutes in. So I think it's safe to say that we have completed episode number 1 of the Huddle Hub podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
I believe so. With that being said, John, your social medias on the bottom. What do you want to let the people check out? And what do you want them to know?
All right, man. Always check out my YouTube channel. Got a ton of content coming. There's a lot of Dead by Daylight content on there. Just got WWE 2K25 on Friday. Gonna start putting a bunch of content on there. So great game. Twitch streaming. Got a little off schedule because I changed my work shift. I was third shift. Now I'm second shift. So I'm slowly rolling back, getting used to the new hours, and slowly getting back on Twitch again. Had to take a little break to get my sleep pattern going, but content will be going on there as well.
All right. So make sure you're checking out everything that John is doing on social media and everything here on the Huddle Hub podcast. Make sure you're checking everything out that he is doing. Go over, follow those socials right now. Instagram, X, TikTok, Snapchat, and Twitch. Metal Mike 714 is where you can find me. And as far as on shows, you can find me here with the Candyman Johnny H every Sunday on the Huddle Hub podcast at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes,
you can also head over to our socials over on TikTok and X at the Huddle Hub Pod and on YouTube at the Huddle Hub Podcast. The links are in the bio here on Twitch. So all you have to do is click on, go on to the Twitch profile, the bio, and the links are right there. You can't miss them. Click on them, go over, hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever it says for you to do to follow us. Please head over and do that now. You'll see clips from the shows on there. And you'll catch us live here on the Huddle Hub Podcast Twitch channel every Sunday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on the Off the Top Media YouTube channel through the year of 2025. You can also catch us here on April 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That is a Thursday night for the special watch along for the NFL Draft Night 1, Round 1. Okay? But other than that, you can catch me on the table spot over on Rivet City Radio's Twitch and Off the Top Media's YouTube channel every Monday night after Monday Night Raw. Now, tomorrow, there's a special start time for Raw. It starts at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So me and Cam will be doing a watch-along for Monday Night Raw starting at 3 p.m., and then we will be doing the table spot right after. So an earlier start time tomorrow afternoon for the table spot, but the Raw watch-along starts at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also catch me on The Boom with Cam and Phil on Rivet City Radio's Twitch and Off the Top Media's YouTube channel every Wednesday night after AEW Dynamite. That is where you can catch me as far as podcasts. Other than that, please head over to my socials, hit that follow button, and please head over to all the links for the Huddle Hub podcast and follow all those socials, as we are going to be putting out clips from the shows through the year of 2025. And then in 2026, we will be live on the Huddle Hub podcast, Twitch, and YouTube channel. So please help us build and everything in between. So, John, that is it for episode 1 of the Huddle Hub podcast, man.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else to add in?
All right.
I'm waiting for it.
Break. Everybody have a great day.
And
that's it. We just broke the huddle.
Oh, we're breaking the huddle now. We're not dismissing class anymore.
No, that
we're
was
changing
the
up.
old show.
Okay. Well, hey, the huddle is broken. Everybody have a great day. Be good to each other. Be kind to each other. Take care of each other. Be patient with each other. Remember, the world is not moving. What's up, Will? Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you stopping in. Remember, the world is not moving as fast as you think. Until next time, we will see you next Sunday here on the Huddle Hub podcast. Break.